my dearest friends, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I managed to finish in the first part of November. We're slowly but surely nearing the end of the year and also slowly but surely getting ready for the holiday period. And you're definitely going to notice it with all the holiday romances that are present in my latest reads that I have on this list. I've read 11 books since the start of November. That's quite a lot, I know, because I think it's the cold weather and us being stuck inside more because it's quite cold, so we don't go to the park like we used to when it was warmer outside. So I'm just reading more nowadays. So I managed to finish 11 books and I've been having a lot of fun, and really I've been getting into a lot of holiday romances. I'm trying to get a very good list to do a recommendations video for Christmas books that you can pick up in December, that I'm going to put out some time later in the month. And I'm going to be talking about the Christmas romances in very few words here, because I'm going to talk about the ones that I really enjoyed in that video, so not in this one. And I'm just going to spend more time on the books that made an impression on me that are not the Christmas romances here. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive in because I read some fun books this month. Starting with My Roommate is a Vampire. This book I saw going around last year already, but I didn't manage to pick it up during the spooky season period, so I put it off for this year. And I'm really happy that I picked it up because I really highly enjoyed it. At least the first 50% of it were really enjoyable for me. The last 50% were a bit too stretched out for me, so I gave this one 3.5 stars, but I really did enjoy it because there was a lot of fun scenes, a lot of fun banter. And the thing is, within this one we've got a heroine who is going to get evicted, and she's an artist, so she's not very well off, so she's looking for a place where she's not going to have to sell her kidney to be able to pay rent. And on Craigslist, I think she finds an ad for an apartment that is just too good to be true, like in the best possible location. All the pictures are looking good, and it's like $200 a month, like a ridiculous low amount of money for rent. She reacts to it, she goes, she views it, and she loves it. And she's like, where is the catch? What is going on here? Why is this place so cheap? But she finds out quite soon when she's shown the apartment that she's going to have a roommate. The roommate is Frederick, who is actually a vampire. So the dynamic between them is quite interesting because obviously we're having this romance that is set in modern times, but Frederick seems to be stuck like a century behind from where we are. And the heroine is kind of enlisted with helping him out to get accustomed to how we live in the 21st century, because something has happened to Frederick and he has kind of missed out on a century or so. So it's very fun, this premise of the book, and it's very interesting how the two characters, because of their forced proximity, because of the teaching kind of situation that goes on between the heroine and the hero, it's the right formula for them, right? But at the same time, there are just some things thrown into the mix after the 50% mark that were not my favorite, and that's why I gave this one 3.5 stars. Next up, I continued with a historical romance, something that I don't pick up very often. And I have Chandler Ainsley to thank for the recommendation of this one, because she was raving about it when she read it a couple of weeks ago. And this one is actually the 5th book within a series. I think it's the conclusion to the series, but it was mentioned that all the books can be read as standalones, and I can vouch for that because I've not read the other 4 books. I immediately picked up this one and I really enjoyed it. The book is called To Woo and To Wed by Martha Waters. And this one features a relationship between a heroine and a hero who, back in the day when they were quite young, like they were just getting into the society, they kind of were already vowed to be married. They were not yet engaged, but they were like almost fiancés. But then just before they got engaged, something happened, because of which the heroine got engaged to someone else and she actually married that someone else. And fast forward, I think it's like 7 or 8 years, we find out that the heroine is a widow and the hero has been pining for our heroine for all those long years, and that is something that I can definitely eat up in any kind of variety of book. Any kind of pining hero will always get me. And actually this one is a celibate hero as well, and he's a scarred hero as well, so there's just so much going on that is just the right kind of thing for me as a reader. And then the heroine is also the kind of heroine who is not very much a pushover. She's very much a very strong and almost, dare I say, an independent woman within historical times. So I really enjoyed this one. There's also, by the way, a fake relationship going on between them because of certain circumstances that also makes for a very good plot line within this book. And it was just a very enjoyable read. Like, the whole relationship flowed very naturally for me, and I was just giddy reading it. So yeah, this one was a definite hit for me. I gave this one 4 stars. Now the next one I picked up, I noticed when I was like almost halfway through it that it's the same author that has written this book, Martha Waters, but this one is a holiday story. It's called Christmas All Around. And like I mentioned, I'm not going to go into the plot because you're going to hear me talking about this book in the Christmas themed video later on in the month, but I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. Just like a short kind of segue into what it's about. It's about a heroine who used to be like a child star within this very popular Christmas movie that everyone loves, but now she absolutely hates Christmas and she wants nothing to do with that movie, and she just wants to escape everyone talking to her around holiday period about that movie. So she decides to go on a 5-week trip to London where her sister lives. So she's staying with her sister and her family, and by chance she ends up in this castle where the actual movie that she starred in, but she's never visited that place because everything was like shot in the States, so she never knew this place was there. So she went to this place and it turns out that it's where the movie was shot. So essentially she's back in her worst nightmare of a scenario where everyone is bound to recognize her because she's in the place where the movie was shot. So there's just a lot going on that is just the very unique and right formula for me to enjoy this book. So yeah, I'm going to talk about this in more detail in the future video that you're going to see, but if you're intrigued, please look it up. The next book is another holiday romance that I think is categorized as a Christian romance. The book is Meddling with Mistletoe by Liz Johnson, and this one was really cute. I gave it 3.5 stars. We've got a heroine who doesn't really know what to do with her life. She is baking at this inn because her own kitchen kind of gave up on her and she really needs to bake a lot of things for a certain competition. And then we've got this guy who is coming from the big city to the small town just for the holidays to help out with the family's inn. And he's kind of a grump. She's kind of a flustered, sunshiny character. And there's just a lot of small town and just very cozy goodness to this book. I give this one 3.5 stars. Now, do not ask me why I picked up the next book. I'm not sure why I picked up the next book, because I did not enjoy very much The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. But then I saw that I have available to me a short novella that is kind of spooky, but at the same time kind of a satire, kind of like a, almost like a, I think it's a satirical kind of thriller situation. It's called The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie. And it's just a very ludicrous kind of a story. I'm not going to go into the plot because it's very short. I think the audiobook for it was like 2 hours or so, so it's very short. And when you start reading about it, we find out that the heroine is someone who has just lost her husband. And slowly but surely we find out that there are some sinister things that went on about how she lost her husband. So I just don't want to say too much because again, it's a novella, so when you start reading it, you quite quickly find out what the plot line is going to be. But just the ending was so ludicrous that I was like, what is this? What am I reading? Is this a thriller or what is this exactly? But anyway, I give this one 3 stars. I don't know, like 2.5, 3 stars. I'm not sure what I should rate it because it was quite a weird read. But yeah, Frida McFadden, I'm not sure if she is the writer for me, to be quite frank. And then the next book I picked up because I saw that Talia Hibbert had left a very good review about it. So I was like, okay, this sounds promising because it sounds like it's going to be like a love triangle situation. And I typically am very intrigued by such books because there is typically a lot of angst in these books. So the book that I picked up is Between Friends and Lovers by Charlene Obobi. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name of the author, so I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but this book essentially centers on a heroine who is a doctor, but she has stopped practicing because she has found a very good platform for herself online where she has become like a health influencer through, I'm not sure, like Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And she is best friends with a guy who is like a rom-com heartthrob, like a celebrity kind of guy, who they're best friends essentially for very many years. They've been best friends, but she's in love with him and she wants to break out of the friend zone. So one day she just confronts him with her feelings and he's like not really reacting in the way that she would have wanted. So he does not really immediately reciprocate those feelings. So she decides that she needs kind of like almost like a clean break. So she takes some distance from him. And in the meantime, she meets our second hero within this book, Malcolm, who is a writer. And she definitely hits it off with him, but she's very honest about her situation where she's now getting over someone and she needs some time to get accustomed to being in a relationship with someone who is completely new to her. So yeah, the overall premise, when I say it like that, sounds really good. And there were just some things, I don't know, it's just the characters were written in a bit of an insufferable way. I could not find it in me at certain points to have empathy for the heroine or for the first hero, for Ezra, who firstly blew off the heroine. I don't know, I just had some issues with how I was feeling towards these characters and the way that they were making decisions about each other. And also the second hero, I was like, what are you getting yourself into? Do you know what you're getting yourself into? And I had sympathy for him more so than the other two characters. And I don't know, I was just really conflicted about this book, so I gave this one 3 stars. And then, because I think it's kind of still fall, so it's not only Christmas romances that I'm gravitating towards, but also like thrillers and spooky books, I decided to pick up Rebecca, which is a classic book. It's by Daphne du Maurier, and I've never read this one, and it's quite short, so I thought, okay, let me just get something completely different from what I've been reading. And I really enjoyed this one. I had such a good time with it. It's a short book. I read the audiobook for it, and the audiobook is really great. We've got a heroine who meets this guy who is a widower, and he takes her as his second wife. He is really wealthy and he brings her to his estate, to his mansion. And we slowly but surely are finding out that what happened to his late wife is really sinister again and very kind of peculiar. And some people in the household are definitely kind of acting suspiciously, and there's just a lot of sinister things going on. So this kind of gothic mystery thriller vibe is really appropriate for this time of year for me. So when I was reading it, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for in like a mystery book. I really highly enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. And then I picked up the latest release by Lila Sage, which is the 3rd book within her Rebel Blue Ranch series. It's called Lost and Lassoed, and I really enjoyed this one. Out of the 3 books that are within this series, because I've read all 3 of them, I enjoyed this one the most, I think. We've got Gus, who is the eldest brother within this ranch that we're following. It's all interconnected standalones, but I think you will get more enjoyment if you read them one after the other and then get to Gus later on. So Gus, he's a single dad, and he is in a situation where he's a single dad, but he has a very good relationship with the mom of his child, so they're quite easily co-parenting. And he really wants to support his baby mama by giving her the chance to finish her like her degree. I think she wants to be a lawyer or something. So he says to her, you go off and do your studies, and I'm going to take care of our daughter while you're away for a couple of weeks. And he is actually managing the ranch. He is doing quite a lot of things, so he has a lot of on his plate, and he's quite controlling. He wants to do everything well and on his own, but slowly but surely we really find out that he really needs some help. And this is where the heroine comes in, Teddy. She is his sister's best friend, and she is someone who they kind of have some kind of a history together, but we don't know exactly what has happened. We also sense that they have this hate to love relationship going on, and the banter between them is great. They also have a bit of an age gap. I think he's like 6, 7, 8 years older than her. I'm not sure, but he feels kind of like she needs to have someone who is more her age, so he's unsure about if he's the right person for her. So there is a lot of things going on that really worked for me in this book. I really highly enjoyed it. I did not give it a full 5-star mark though, because I just had something, I was missing something. I don't know whether it was the fact that the way that the progression of the book went from them first kind of hating each other and then them having this forced proximity because he enlists her help to help with the child. She becomes the child's nanny. I don't know, there was just something missing in the whole thing. Maybe it's some kind of like, I sense the pining in him and the longing, but I also sense the angst, but there is just some kind of spark missing, like some kind of a, I'm not sure what to call it honestly. There's just something that was missing for me, so I didn't give it a full 5-star mark, but I gave it 4.5 stars. So the next 3 books are also Christmas romances. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to tell you some of the tropes. The first one is The Christmas Catch by Tony Shiloh. This one is a Christian romance and it's quite cute. It's a second chance romance. It's also a romance where we've got a hero who is a football player who gets injured and gets back to his small town to get some help from his family. And then the heroine is a single mom. They had some history. They're revisiting their history. So it's quite fun. I give this one 3 stars. And then the next one is, again, a shorter book. And going from Christian romance to a very spicy romance next. It's Naughty Little Christmas by Lily Valente. This one features, again, a second chance romance trope. I love those, so I can read one any day. This one features a hero and heroine who had a relationship when they were teenagers, but the heroine had a very difficult past, and the hero did something that broke the heroine's trust, so they broke it off. And then many years later, she comes back to their small town. He's still there. He is very much loving his life in the small town, with the one exception that he doesn't have a significant partner. And she's still pissed off at what has happened. So they have a lot of things to work through. I enjoyed this one. I gave it 3 stars. And then moving on to the last one. The last one was actually one that I think I enjoyed the most, together with the Martha Waters Christmas book. This one is called Wreck My Plans by Gillian Meadows. This one, very interestingly, has a trope that I typically don't enjoy, but in this case it was done very well. It's the brother's best friend trope. We've got a hero and heroine who are from the same small town. Though the hero, he is coming off of the foster care system, so he has a lot of issues that are unresolved from his past. And they had a falling out when, like 3 or 4 years ago, during the Christmas period. They haven't spoken to each other since then, but now they're kind of forced to confront what has happened because they're going to spend a Christmas together. And I'm not going to say more because I'm going to go into more detail, as I mentioned in my Christmas video, in the future. This one I really enjoyed. I gave this one 4 stars, and I hope that even though I'm not going into too much detail, you're going to look up these Christmas books if you're in the Christmas mood, so you can add them to your TBR. And essentially these were all the books that I managed to finish in the month of November, at least the first part of November. Let me know what you've been reading. Let me know what you've been enjoying. Let me know if you've read any of the books and what you think about them in the comment box below, as usual. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and